Welcome to this week's Rack of the Week. This week's Rack of the Week begins after an opponent's miss, and as you can see, there's only 3 balls left on the table. There are no balls in the typical side of rack area. I'm electing to use this stripe into the side pocket as the break ball, so I want to get above it here somewhere. Let me pause this for a second. There were actually several opportunities. The obvious shot was to shoot this ball in the corner and come down for the 11 in the side. Now, if I wanted to come below the 11, so here's the shot line, and I wanted to come below it because then my cue ball can move up here into the position zone for the break shot. However, it's important to remember, if I had gotten straight in or to this angle, I could simply follow forward and stop the cue ball in the rack area. Or I could have drawn the cue ball into the rack area. If I had a little bit more angle, let me erase this. If I had a little bit more angle, let's say over here, I could have sent the cue ball 2 rails right into the rack area. So it's important to remember that. You don't always have to get, on these side pocket break shots, you don't always have to play position above the break shot. You can stop the cue ball in the rack. So I had lots of options and wasn't the slightest bit worried about getting there. Also, if I had more angle, I could send the cue ball to the head rail and off to easily get on the break shot. As it is, I left myself with a very slight angle, and I think that's actually good. It's easier to control the speed. See how hard I had to hit that to stun it up there? So got a great angle on this shot. This break shot is similar to last week where I had a break shot that was right here on the spot, and I had to go 2 rails into the rack. So this is similar to that in that what you don't want to do is hit the side of the rack because the scratch percentage is really high. And you're not looking to smash this rack. It's so easy for the cue ball to hit the rack, go to the side rail, and spin all the way up table, and you're just in no man's land. So all you're trying to do here is knock a few balls loose. You want to hit the top side of either of these head balls, the 14 or the 4, so the cue ball can go to the rail and maybe off like that. And that's about it. That's all you want to accomplish. And I gave that shot a little extra body English, but mission accomplished. This is fine. I've got the focus hunting problem. I'm going to work on that. But the focus is better now. But there's only a few balls. I've already decided what to do. There's only a few balls open. I actually have only one shot to choose from, but there's just a few balls open. What can often happen in this situation, if I hit it a little bit harder, you're going to see a ball like this 14 that's clear to the corner pocket. And so you'll have a shot over here that you could play position to center table and have a break shot to reopen the rack. So this is kind of old school straight pull. You're just knocking a few balls loose, and you fully intend to look for a re-break opportunity within 1 or 2 shots. Barring this type of shot, what can also happen very often is you get a ball below the rack, near the rail. So I would also have an opportunity in this instance to shoot this 5 and bring the cue ball low, way down on the rail. Then I can shoot the 6 and send the cue ball into the rack. So that's another re-break opportunity. As it is, I notice real quickly that this 2 ball goes in the corner, and that's super ideal. The reason why that's much more ideal than the 6 ball is the cue ball is going to go into the pocket, into the glove, the pocket right here. You got the 9 ball and the other balls. That's going to kind of stop the cue ball from flying around the table, getting lost, possibly getting scratched. So that's the perfect break shot, and I just have a perfect angle on this 5. Is that the 5? Yeah, it looks like the 5 ball to set up for this re-break shot. Now this re-break shot, I hit a little bit too soft. And the reason why, pause this again, you always want to look at your re-breaks because, take a look. It looks like a big cluster of balls, right? There's 6 balls right here in a triangular pattern. And I'll bet if I went and took a look, those balls would have all been tight. And what that means is that as soon as you hit one side of that pattern, of that cluster, the energy is transferred through to the balls on the perimeter. That's why these balls are still frozen in the first place, because my original break shot from this ball in the side pocket just glanced the rack, and so the energy was transferred just to these perimeter balls. So had I realized that, I think I would have stroked this shot a little bit harder. You can see my cue ball back up and go forward. See that? Now, had I stroked it harder, I think I would have opened these up a little bit more. It looks like the cue ball would have followed forward, and the cue ball might have been over here, and I would have had a shot on the 6 ball back this way. As it is, wasn't a bad result. I'm electing to shoot this 3 ball. It's really the only shot, kind of like last week's rack of the week, where sometimes you only have one shot and you got to make the most of it. Now, if I needed to, I could shoot this 8 ball. That's a long shot where I'm elevated over the 6. That's a pretty tough shot. Or I could turn around and lean over the table and thin cut this 6 ball. That's another really difficult shot. But if that's what I had to do, then you've got to just suck it up and go for it. As it is, this is a really simple shot. And I automatically realize that a stop shot on this 3 ball is going to give me a shot on this 15. The 15 does go here. And then the cue ball is going to run into the 7. And that's going to open these balls up. And I will for sure, the cue ball will stop there. I'll for sure have a shot on the 9. So that's my plan. That's not the only thing that you could do. I could also draw the cue ball from this 3 back to the bottom rail and maybe off a little bit. And then, let me clear those lines. If I draw the cue ball back to here, then I can cut the 6 ball and let the cue ball run into these. In either case, I'm definitely have insurance balls in mind. So if I draw the cue ball back to here and cut the 6, the cue ball is probably going to go forward, and then this 9 ball or this ball in the side pocket or even the 8 are insurance balls, and that's a good shot. Nothing wrong with that pattern. I elect to go this way. Took real careful aim. It's a long shot when the cue ball is close to the object ball. It's really easy to miss-hit that. So now I just want the cue ball to stop, so I'm not hitting that too hard. So I've nudged these balls, and this is my next shot. I only left myself this one shot, but that's fine. But now I've got a real decision point, so I'm walking around taking a look at this. What I'm looking at is this. It's natural to want to shoot the 13, and if I didn't have as much angle, just bring the cue ball up here to shoot the 8 ball next. I really don't have that opportunity because I'm too thin on the 13. So you might think, okay, my next thought was, okay, I'll just go to the rail and come out, and then I'll have a shot on the 8 ball. But now I've got to think about this. What am I trying to accomplish? In other words, a little bit of rack analysis is necessary here because I've got 2 balls that need to be tied up, and I have 2 up table balls. Well, this isn't really up table, but it's kind of separated from the rest of the balls down here. If you count the balls on the table, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got 10 balls left. 5 balls are already gone just to get the rack open. And it's still not quite open. It's still not quite solved. I've got these 2 balls to deal with. The only pockets for these balls is all the way up here if I get some kind of short side position. And that's no good. What I have going for me in this rack is that I've got 2 potential break balls, the 7 and whatever that ball is, probably the 11. Either of those balls can be a break ball, and I like the fact that either of those balls can be a key ball for the other. Right now, I don't have a good key ball on this into the side pocket on this side of the table. So my key ball is probably going to be either the 6 or one of these. It's really hard to tell right now what the key ball is going to be. So I don't have a definitive end pattern, even though I'd like to work on one. But the problem is these 2 balls. What am I going to do with those balls? They need to be nudged, and that's probably not going to be a big problem. And like I said, when you nudge them, you've got these insurance balls here, as long as you don't shoot those balls off before you nudge them. So you can see the urgency. You've got to get to those balls somehow. So I studied this for a while, and I really don't see the value of sending the cue ball to the rail and out for the 8 ball because I can't get an angle that lets me open up these balls, or I just don't see any possibilities there. So what I finally realized is, wait a minute, I can shoot the 13 with a high cue ball and hit the 8, knock it this way, and then the cue ball is going to go this way, and I'll have a shot on the 6. I like that better. It keeps the 8 ball available for later in the rack, maybe doing something, and then I can figure out a different way to open this. So I just want to keep shooting. I don't have a definitive plan for opening those balls. So I'm taking a look now. What am I going to have once I shoot this 8 ball? And I'm just noticing that I want the cue ball to stay up here so I have an angle on the 6. As long as I have an angle on the 6, I'll be okay. That's my thought process. What's wrong about that thought process is I left the cue ball on the rail. So this is a tough shot. And it's giving me pause here. The reason why it's a tough shot is the cue ball's on the rail. If the cue ball wasn't on the rail, oh man, it's super easy. But since it's on the rail, I need to move the cue ball. And if I hit this with a medium soft stroke, the cue ball is just going to go to the rail and come up and sit behind the 9 ball or something. So I've actually got to stroke this ball with a little bit of speed so that the cue ball goes forward off that rail and goes past the 9. And I'm thinking that that's okay because here's the line to the pocket for the 9. I'm going to probably be below that line or on it, and then I'll be able to shoot the 9 in this pocket and open up these balls. And I'll have an insurance ball here and an insurance ball here and here. I hope those lines make sense. Let's bear down on this shot because when you're shooting a shot like this off the rail, it's really easy to undercut this ball because you can throw the 6 ball to the right and it hits this point and rattles. So you've really got to make sure that you aim carefully, center pocket or even to the outside of the pocket. And you see I had to have a little bit, even with a little bit of follow to get it to curve forward, it bumped that 9. So once again, for the second time in a row, the cue ball's on the rail and I don't have a shot. Now you see I immediately went to the 8 ball because on the rail I can't do anything with the cue ball. I can make the 9 and the cue ball will roll forward to here. Now what do I do? So you just can't shoot that ball. It's possible I could do some kind of stroke shot where the cue ball follows forward and does something that it's just a terrible choice. And so it becomes real obvious that now is the time to shoot this 4. And the other reason is I have a real great angle. The cue ball is just going to go 2 rails back to center table, and I have a choice of this ball or the 8 ball. I'm sure that on this shot, I was playing position for the 8. Now, I don't know exactly what angle I'm going to get. It would probably be nice to have this angle because I can pocket the 8 and draw the cue ball into these 2 balls. But I don't get that. So now what am I going to do? I'm come over in here. So notice what I just did. I wanted to see if I shoot the 8 and roll the cue ball forward, what kind of shot am I going to have? Can I shoot this 1 ball on the side? And I can't, which leaves rolling forward to shoot one of these balls up in this corner pocket, which I don't like. So I'm looking for a better opportunity. Maybe there isn't one, maybe there is. And I finally realize, I don't know if I saw it. I just saw it when I walked over here and looked. And that is, I wonder if you saw it, I think that's 14 ball, passes. It goes in this corner pocket, which means all I got to do is get the cue ball anywhere up here and I'm good. I'm good to go. Because as soon as I shoot the 14, then the 1's open. And so not realizing that, this ball becomes the key ball to get on the 14. I just need to draw back over here and everything's going to be good. Once I've done that, I think it's pretty easy to see the pattern. You shoot it'll be, I think this looks like the 12, 14. Then I can get on the 8. Now I can use the 8 ball to shoot the 1 in the side. So now all these balls are gone. What's left? The 9, the 7, and the 11. So one of the 7 or 11 is the break ball, and the other one's the key ball, and I use the 9 to get on those. So I hope that makes sense. We're going to see in a moment. This is just draw back to center table, and I kind of stun draw it, but it works out okay. You can get straight in on this 14. You can get an angle so that you shoot the 14 and go to the rail and come out to get on the 8. Doesn't matter. But this is an easy pattern. You can kind of think of this as a 3-ball sequence. 14, 8, 1. Now I want to take a good look at, I should have walked over and looked, but what I did there, standing there, was visualizing this line from the side pocket through the 1. I want to get close to straight in. And then what I should have done, which I didn't do, I should have gone over here. I should have stood right here and took a look at the ghost ball position to the 9. That's really important. All I did was walk around and decided as I walked around that I want the cue ball to slide up here a little bit so I have an angle on the 9, because then I can just go to the bottom rail and come up for position on my key ball. I think that this is, although I run these out, that's really important. I think that's the difference a lot of the time between running 20 balls or 60 balls, or the difference between running 50 balls or 100 balls. You've got to get just right, and I didn't get just right. I'm almost straight in, and I've got to stun this ball to the rail and back up. What I have going for me, by the way, it wouldn't be wrong to keep, if this is the shot line to the 9, it wouldn't be wrong to shoot the 1 and to keep the cue ball on this side of the line either, because then all you got to do is tap the 9 in and go to the rail and out and get your angle on your cue ball. So that way works as well. What I like about this shot, though, here's the line to the pocket for the 7. So I want to be below that line and not too far below it. So I want you to notice this. If my cue ball was really high, like up here, then when I cut the 9, I'd have to use a whole bunch of left English to try and get it back over here into that zone. So I'm actually better off over here. And this is position 101. When you're playing position for this key ball, right now I'm imagining breaking the rack with the 11 and using the 7 as the key ball. So I want this angle so I can just send the cue ball to the rail and out here for the break shot. Let me erase these lines. So here's a line to the pocket for the 7. Here's my position zone. What you don't want to do is come this way. And the reason is I've got like 3 inches of a position zone in this triangle. But if the cue ball comes this way, now I've probably got 8 or 9 or 10 inches that I can land my cue ball in and have a really good angle on the 7. So that's kind of position 101 that we all learned when we were beginners. Play to the wide part of that position zone. So that's what I did, and that's what makes it look like, oh, he's so good at getting position. No, I'm not. I just played to the wide end of the position zone. And if the cue ball had come farther, let's say to here, then I could shoot the 11 and come out and use the 7 as a break shot. So this pairing of the 7-11 is really great when both of these balls are out of the rack. It gives you lots of opportunities. Before I shoot this break shot, I want to make one point. I wanted to go back to this point of the rack because if you take a look, a lot of people might have chosen this route, and that is to shoot the 13 and send the cue ball to the side rail and out here. Because then you can shoot the 12 in the side and the 8, so you're getting rid of these up table balls. And then you can come back down table and deal with the remaining balls. Let's see, there would only be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 balls. And does this ball clear between the 8 and the 11? I don't think so. So you're still kind of leaving this problem for later, and that could be dangerous. That's not to say that it's not possible. There's probably multiple ways to deal with that, but if you shoot these balls first. What I'm trying to say is this is an example of what I would call the pattern continuum. Every choice you make directly affects what you're able to do later on in that rack. Shooting the 13 ball and coming up here dramatically changes the entire rack, the entire way that you might approach it. You might want to play position for the 6 or the 9, bring the cue ball over here so that you can do something to try and address these balls with an insurance ball. It just changes everything. And so there's kind of a pattern continuum. That's why in so many racks, there's no one correct shot. And you get 10 straight pool players in a room looking at this layout, you're going to hear several different, at least 3 or 4 different ideas about how to approach it. And it's really hard to say that one's right and one's wrong. Sure, there are some situations where you can make a clear-cut decision, but in others, no. A lot of times it's going to depend on personal preference, just how you're feeling, your confidence level on different shots. It might depend on how tight the pockets are on the table, because if they're really tight, you want to play real good position on these up-table balls. You want to play close position with a good angle, whereas if they're 5-inch pockets, you're not as concerned. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things that can affect your choices. Think of it as a pattern continuum. Don't think that you're doing anything wrong when you make a choice, or that there could even be a wrong choice. It's up to you to make it work. And that's what's one of the things that I think is so beautiful about straight pool. Just embrace that and enjoy the pattern continuum. So here's the parallel line for my break shot, so I'm outside of it. It wouldn't be wrong to go to the shoot this break shot with high right English. I think that's an old school way of doing it. Your cue ball would hit this corner ball, and you're trying to make it come out 2 rails. I find it hard to control that shot on tight equipment with fast Simonis cloth. All I'm doing is shooting low on the cue ball. I'm trying to shoot with no spin, stun the cue ball into the side of the rack and up to center table. And because I know I'm going to hit that ball full, it's going to be a really controllable. I feel like that's a more controllable shot. Because of how hard I'm hitting it, I know that I'm knocking a bunch of balls loose on the opposite side of the rack, which is what happened, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 balls, and I have a choice of 2 shots. So I like this way better. And then the other thing to notice is these 5 balls are still they might be tightly frozen or pretty close to frozen. And why is that? It's because I hit the 3 ball full, and these other balls surround the 3. So since I hit it full, the 3 ball transferred its energy to the adjoining balls, and so those balls transferred the energy to the balls that were surrounding that. And that's why those inner balls stayed tight. So you can plan on that when you know that you're striking one of these balls on the side of the rack full, that you'll still have a cluster, but you're going to knock balls open in the other direction. So you can plan for this type of break shot. I really like that, and I get through this next rack as well. Good luck. Thanks for watching.